It's November. Is it a season of mists and mellow fruitfulness? Is it Movember, a season of moustaches? Or is it, more controversially still, No Nut November, a month of masturbatory abstinence that has somehow been criticised for having affiliations with the far right and anti-Semitism? How can puritanical sexual abstemiousness converge with anti-Semitism and far right philosophy? Let's have a look at that. First, personally, my attitude towards pornography is that I have to be cautious and abstinent of it in general, because I've had, like, I believe sex addiction is a real thing because I've experienced it. And I think pornography, I mean, there's sort of serious scientific evidence around what pornography does to the brain. Check this shit out. Heroin addicts often claim that shooting up feels like an orgasm. Supporting their experience, ejaculation mimics the effects of heroin addiction on the same reward circuit nerve cells. Specifically, ejaculation shrinks the same dopamine producing nerve cells that shrink with chronic heroin use. Now, I've been a heroin addict, and not necessarily, certainly I've had issues around compulsive sex and looking at porn, even when I was very, very young, before having any sort of sexual relationships. This doesn't mean sex is bad, it simply informs us that addictive drugs hijack the exact same mechanisms that urge us back into the bedroom for a romp. Oh, I didn't realise there was going to be such appalling English there. So, what's interesting to me is, firstly, I would, on first glance, think that No Nut November, apart from its rather revolting alliterative name, is a brilliant idea. I would assume at first glance that young people having access to abundant porn is not a good thing. My assumption would be that it's objectifying, ignores and eschews the sacred aspect of sexuality, that there is much in the world of pornography that is transgressive, and not in a progressive and positive way, but in a kind of objectifying and humiliating way. I think that pornography generally commodifies sex, commodifies human beings, commodifies, well, I would say, women in particular. Now, like, I know people that work in porn, and I wouldn't, like, to prescribe to them that a particular type of morality, or you shouldn't be doing this job or whatever. And there's lots of interesting stuff like John Ronson's work around pornography and the community that exists in amongst the adult entertainment world. But speaking from the perspective of an addict, I feel that pornography is dangerous. I think it's a dangerous thing. I think there's some serious evidence that young people are suffering from erectile dysfunction. That's not like a made up thing as a result of experiencing like an unnatural amount of erotic, and not even erotic, pornographic imagery that prevents you. In a sense, it's the commodification and consumerization of sex, turning sex into an absolute commodity, turning human beings into objects. This cannot be spiritually positive. Me, as an addict, I feel like, if you play a computer game for too long and then the real world looks odd, if you watch too much pornography, clicking through videos, staring like a lifetime's worth of naked humanity in all manner of positions that they're ultimately in because they're earning money from it. There's not the amount of porn that already exists, and yet more. Critics say it's connected to the far right and anti-Semitic. If you break the No Nut November, if you fail to maintain your abstinence, you're meant to change your avatar to this particular Kuma image. There was speculation that the image is anti-Semitic. I think that what's more likely is the kind of spaces online that these ideas are discussed are also used by people that are anti-Semitic and misogynistic and have far right views, because of the way that the internet spaces have been carved up. You should read Angela Nagel's brilliant book Kill All Normies, which talks about the vast disparity online between leftist liberalist politics and 4chan style right-wing politics, and how these insular forums have influenced the mainstream and have in fact contributed considerably to events of global significance, such as the election of Donald Trump and Brexit. I don't know enough about the kind of places where No Nut November is born, because I stay off the internet generally, and I certainly don't look at pornography as part of my own personal program. And from my perspective, it's certainly not a condemnation of women or an endorsement of any kind of peculiar ideology. It's because I want to be someone who looks at people lovingly, not as objects, not as commodities, that I need to completely reframe my own sexuality because I had access to too much sexual experience and pornography as a younger man and when I was developing from childhood, really. So for me, it's a reframing. From my perspective, men not looking at pornography is a good thing. There's the stuff about, oh, it's good for your prostate and stuff. Man, I feel like if the price of a healthy prostate is the industrialization of pornography, the production of the limitless cyber continents of pixelated sex ghosts, then that seems like a high price to pay. I can see a lot positive in No Nut November, not its name, and if the crucible of these ideas has affiliations with politically nuanced things that I don't understand, then I'm up for being educated on that. But human beings not objectifying each other and looking at people primarily as sex objects, I think is a really positive thing. And me, as an addict, I can attest to the very real existence of sexual addiction. It's so easy to get obsessed by that kind of behavior, to get possessed by that kind of behavior, to have it accessible in your pocket when you're an adolescent going through those kind of hormonal influxes. They're having some form of pattern, program, control over that, I think is incredibly positive. Perhaps pornography, relating as it does to our sexuality, could be compared to sugar in the world of diet. We're only meant to have access to a certain amount of sugar because it's meant to be a hard thing to find. Occasionally finding some fructose-laden berry or apple someplace would be a rarity in the conditions for which we are designed, but now there are abundant M&Ms and Mars bars hanging from every potential service vended ubiquitously. Similarly with the sexual impulse, sex is not an easy thing to achieve in competitive tribal environments. Inundated continually with pornography, you get trapped in loops which are illustrated well by the experimentation known, I think, commonly as the Coolidge effect, where a male rat and female rat will copulate, and if you continue to exchange the female rat or the male rat, I think in some experiments, that there is an incentive to continue copulating to the point of exhaustion or death, i.e. there are aspects of our biology and neurology and perhaps hormonal ecology that are beyond our individual nature. That it's, if you create a kind of climate where there is so much access to pornography that it's, to all intents and purposes, infinite, limitless, we don't have the restraint, the biochemical restraint to deal with that. So whilst there is controversy around this month of abstinence, I feel that, broadly speaking, having a respectful attitude towards pornography is a positive thing. Hello, I'm doing these new videos more frequently now. Please hit the notification button at the end of this video, because then you'll get a little bell when I post a new video, and I'd like you to get a little bell when I post a video. Then I can, I don't know, be buzzing away in your pocket. Sounds like I'd be like a little pocket mosquito. Anyway, subscribe, click the bell, because I want more people to watch the YouTube videos. You specifically.